I'm chilling.
That's what I like to hear.
I got teased earlier this week when it was like 55.
I know.
I was thinking that might stay for a little bit, but
I just saw a tweet that said it was like, I think it's supposed to be 70 next week, but I just realized I don't know if that person's in Columbus, so I'm not sure.
yeah, that sounds like lies if it's Columbus.
It looks like it's gonna be like 60.
60s next week, yeah.
So that ain't too bad. I'll take that.
Yeah. 60 and below is freezing, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely need.
That's why I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Right, that Florida weather where 60s is winter.
Yes, exactly. Dude, when I went there for New Year's Eve or New Year's, it was 80 degrees the whole week. It was incredible.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, and just like sunny I think it was sunny all but one day. One day it rained. Every other day it was.
It's funny because like obviously Florida's called the Sunshine State. It's actually the place where it rains the most in the US, but it's like it'll rain and then like nothing happens. You just like forget about it.
There's one so it rains more in Florida than it does in like Washington State. Because I thought Washington
it's the reason. So everyone thinks it's Washington, and it does rain there a lot, but it's because like it'll be gloomy there, and the weather.
It's always like dark and nasty.
Yeah, like literally. I mean, I'm sure you've been there. Like I've been in Florida, where literally, like, I mean, downpour. You may think like the world's coming to an end for like 15 straight minutes, and then like the rest of the day, it's so like you literally like it rains more, but like because the weather goes back to being good, people don't.
You don't like, notice it.
Yeah,
gotcha. I remember when I went to Hawaii, and when I was in Hawaii, it would be like bright, beautiful sunshine, and rain would come down for like 10, 15, 20 minutes, and like there was no clouds in the sky. It was so bizarre. Like the sun was still just like shining down bright as ever, but it would just rain like real tiny drops. It was really weird, but like
what do they call that? It's not like the devil's sunshine or the devil's shower or something like that when it does that.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, dude. It's like it's like, oh yeah, looked a little dry down there. Let me sprinkle some water, but not fuck up the water for you. That's what I like to see.
Yep. So yeah, it's that's the move.
For sure.
Get out of here. But yeah, my kids came back to school this week.
Right. Nice. How's that?
It was good. It's hybrid, so like half the class is in on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, kind of like all online so that they can clean the school, and then Thursday, Friday they're back in. The other half is in, and everyone else is online when the one half is in. And so it's kind of like I wouldn't say stressful, but like I don't really for some people it's stressful. Like it doesn't really stress me out having it's really like two different jobs because you're teaching online and in person.
Right.
So it takes a lot of patience and a lot of prep so that like something goes haywire, you have like a backup plan.
Yeah.
And so it's good. Like I really enjoyed it. All the kids seem really happy and like excited to be back. And like for me, one of the main reasons that I like to teach is getting to like build relationships with the kids and get to know them more and be a leader to them and encourage them and that sort of thing. And being on a computer all day, you can't really do that. So, right. And they really don't even when they're online, most of them just don't. Yeah. They'd rather type a message or like talk about video games than like have a conversation. So
right.
interesting. Get them in person, you can kind of peel back some layers.
Nice. Yeah, I forgot you said they were coming back. You're in. Did all Columbus City schools went back, or just your school?
I my understanding is most elementary and middle schools started back March 1st. I don't I'm pretty sure that's how it was in Columbus City. But I think they may have given like each school the choice
Gotcha.
if they wanted to or not. And for those that it was kind of like I think DeWine like said, if you want to open by March 1st, I'll make sure I hook you up with the
vaccine. Yeah.
So that you're like vaccinated or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that.
So
did you get yours?
Yeah, I did not. That's kind of I've been thinking about that, like why I didn't get it, and I just, I'm not a conspiracy dude. Like I don't think I'm gonna get chipped by the government or anything like weird. I just didn't. Growing up, I never got any vaccines. Like I never got the flu shot, and I never got the flu. And I'm a big believer that humans are anti-fragile. So like the more that we test and strain and stress the body, like the stronger that we get. And so like I think by now, especially going to Miami for a week, I've been exposed to it probably. So I'm just gonna, I don't know, I just kind of rely on my own antibodies more. I'm sure some scientists would tell me I'm an idiot, but that's just kind of my flow.
Yeah, I mean, that's understandable.
Did you get it?
No, well, it hasn't even. I don't work in any type of field where it would even be presented to me as an option.
Gotcha.
Because I work for myself.
Can you even? I didn't know if you could like pay for it or.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure because I like. Yeah. I mean, everything everything in the world is for purchase, right? So yeah, I could, right? But I was never that pressed for it. Originally I was like, they rushed this thing. And so that's what was really turned me off more than anything. You had never really got the flu shot or anything like that. I know several people have gotten it. Both people I know, both business people that I just kind of know from afar and all types of things. The way I looked at it too was if I do get it, right, because I think Biden said, I think it may be pushed up and maybe every adult in the US is supposed to be able to have the option by May is what they're pushing for. And it was originally supposed to be July. I was like, maybe, but it's not about me getting sick. I don't think, we know, right, statistically, young people in good health, it doesn't have even if I got it, right? And I know several people have gotten COVID as well.
But are you in good health though, dude?
I'm in phenomenal.
You got that dad bod going.
No, I'm in phenomenal. But yeah, so I don't know. It would be about if it's going to prevent me from passing it on is the reason I would consider getting it. Because like I said, for me, I'm fine, but there are people around me who, that we need to see on a consistent basis who are a little bit higher risk, that if they did get it, probably wouldn't make it. And I'd hate to be the vehicle that carries that into their world. And so that's the only reason I would really consider it. So we'll see.
Yeah, so at the time, the initial thing that kind of made me pump the brakes on it was I was reading an article and they discussed about how supposedly they had the vaccine back in like January of 2020. And so I think we discussed this before, but obviously there's to get past through all of the regulatory systems in America, like it probably takes a while. But it just seemed a little, the timing of that seemed a little sketch. Like we didn't shut down anything until March, but there's evidence that the vaccine was already prepared and ready to go, or it was in existence in January. And so I was just kind of like skeptical of the whole thing. And also like the ties to our government administration. Like when Obama was president, there was initially this Center for Disease they were going to set up this lab in South Carolina, or one of the Carolinas, I forget. And they said, fuck that. And so then we moved it to Wuhan. And Obama, I mean, obviously it's not just Obama, but like his administration sent, I think it was like 300 million to this Wuhan lab back however many years ago. And like, I just been in it too long to like these things aren't really coincidences. And so it's just, there's just too many red flags that I'm just like, this seems a little sketch. And like, you know, that plus how I know it's been rushed to, you know, go and become public. Like I'm just gonna sit it out for a little bit, and then, like you said, if it one, I want to see like what the side effects are after, you know, 6 months to a year, and also like how's it affecting, you know, if they come out and say, oh, it's doesn't work, or you know, like this one doesn't work, or the Pfizer doesn't work, whatever, the Johnson and Johnson doesn't work.
Right.
I want to have that information before I, you know, do anything.
Yeah, my understanding, I haven't seen any comments of like, you know, they had in January 2020, is that the study of coronavirus, like coronavirus is not new, right? The study in the vaccine creation around coronaviruses have been going around for a long time. The specific strain is COVID-19, right? SARS virus 19. This specific strain, we still don't technically have an actual, I was about to say cure,
Vaccine.
Yeah, vaccine for. So what all the companies, what they're creating is like, except for maybe Pfizer, I think one is not what they consider a live vaccine, meaning the actual virus itself is not in the vaccine. They're introducing your body to the different other strains of coronaviruses. It's not the actual 19 piece, which should help your body, like you said, because when our body is introduced to things, can usually attack and build up. And so that was why they were able to get it out so quickly, because there has been study on those in general. They were able to make some vaccines there.
So then maybe this article that I read was trying to be a little conspiratorial or some shit, where it's like, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's the 19th strain, then like I'm sure there was probably a lot of studies and vaccination plans going on for previous strains. So like,
right.
Okay.
Right. Because like you said, like that's what those epidemiologists.
That makes more sense than some.
Yeah, like that's what those epidemiologists and stuff and people do. Like they probably have like all types of vaccines that they've studied and that they create, because there's all type of viruses. Now, whether something's widespread enough or it's been approved by governments to be able to put out is a whole different story. And so that's why they were able to kind of start there, because it's like, oh, the study of the coronavirus was not new for them. It was this specific strain. And then, like you said, all the procedures, and once those were removed, they were able to put some stuff out. So, you know, like I said, I do think it's funny when, now again, you know me, I always go back and look at what we know, right? It would not.
Systems are principles.
Exactly, right? You know, it would not surprise me. You know, I don't think it's a conspiracy or a far stretch to say, you know, hey, governments, not just our government, governments can be linked back to creating and releasing viruses, right? Like, I mean, that's not unfounded. But what I think is funny, and I think it's probably a stretch when you have people like, they're trying to chip you, and they're trying to, like, there's so many, like, I don't think people realize how vulnerable they are. Like, if they just wanted to chip you,
here's your chip.
Right, exactly. Right. Like, there's like so many ways to actually do that. If they just wanted to poison everybody, like, we all drink from a government water system. Like they're in it, and there's studies, there's people that actually do this, right? There's, and depending on where you live, certain amount of lead and stuff with it, where you could argue maybe they are poisoning you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like people don't realize how vulnerable they are. Like, let me get some water. Damn government trying to fucking, it's I'm just like, people trying to pick and choose. It's like, all right, buddy. So I'm just like, dude, if that was the case, I think there'd be more convenient ways than trying to get people to take an optional vaccine. And then here's what I also think is funny about it, because I tweeted, because it came out last week, and I tweeted a reply. I saw you liked it. Is like, President Trump was in there like, coronavirus, it's a, that was their position for the longest, it's a hoax and stuff. Them buddies got vaccinated all up.
I mean, it's just there.
So
they lined right up for it.
It's just, that's what I think what people don't realize is that the narratives are pushing, like, they think it's about me taking the vaccine or not, and that's where they got me. And it's like, no, it's the fact that both sides are having a feeling either way and think something typically negative about the other side. That's the whole play, right? That like, i.e., and again, this has nothing to do with President Trump. You can do this with any administration, any president, any governor over here. Like, hey, it's a, X, Y, and Z. Get those people right up on this side. Why I still go take care of me and mine and leave y'all to be fucking idiots.
There's the whole, I mean, the whole like last year of lockdown and all that has like been an expose on how corrupt, and it's like, what's the saying? Law for you, but not for me, or something like that. What's that? Is that?
That makes sense, but I don't know the actual quote you're quoting.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. But like Gavin Newsom, how he shut down. I mean, California is like the most locked down of all time, and then there's evidence of him going to his winery and his wine farm and like his orchard or whatever, and like eating in a restaurant. And then there was Nancy Pelosi that went and got her hair did in the middle of all of this, and like out one side of their mouth they're like, everybody stay inside, don't have Thanksgiving, don't do Christmas, just stay at home, like don't interact with nobody. And y'all are going out and doing stupid shit like that. Like,
what I think is, like, it's something we've touched on before, but I think what people also don't realize is that, like I said, even if you're the best well-intentioned person, like I may be like, man, I vote for Owen. I know that the way the American political system is set up right now, if Owen is on the Republican Party or the Democratic ticket, it's over for my boy Owen, right? Like, you know what I'm saying?
I wouldn't be on them if I ran.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. And our party is like, if you don't, right, then you're probably not going to make it. But you know what I'm saying? Exactly. That's like, as much as I know, and we've sat here and talked, and like, you would have the best intentions to get at the top of that ticket and to be the person. You realize that the institute, like this, like it's your hands are tied more than you actually think. And so, it leads people, I think, to, it's like, you make these decisions because you have to, right? And somewhat, but even if you don't technically personally align completely with them or the angles, and I think that's the narrative and what's more sad to see.
And it's not only that your hands are tied, it's that you more than likely have people that are have much more leverage in the game, pulling you in 10 different directions.
Right. So right. Exactly. Basically, it's
occupied by more things than what you are elected to be concerned about, which is the people that you represent.
Right. It's as simple as it's like, it really comes down to this. And I know, like, I mean, you can go find all types of cases of this. It's as simple as, that's cool and great, Owen, that you want to change that. That's just not going to be in our best interest or in these people's best interest over here. And so the answer is no. And you can go ahead and push forward. It's easier for us to replace you, whatever that means to you, than for you to change this, right? And that's the issue, right? Is like, and not that, they would just start taking you out left and right, but it is, right? Like, not necessarily physically. It's easier to damage your character or to, plant things on your computer, scandalize, and it's easier for you to get replaced in that position that you're trying to do good than to change the system.
And even more than that, like, even if there isn't like malpractice going on, if you just get ignored, like, you probably won't get reelected. If you're not, and I've talked before about Lawrence Lessig. He's a Harvard political science professor, I think. He's done a ton of research on our political system and how it's so not good. And how we get the people that were elected. And one of the things that he studied was how much time politicians spend on getting towards getting reelected. And it's something like, after the first 6 months of their term, I think, all resources are put towards getting reelected, whether it's a 4-year term or a 2-year term. Like, most of the time, effort, money is spent towards getting reelected. And it's among other things. Like, if any of you watch any Lawrence Lessig videos, which you should, he's got a podcast with Joe Rogan that's great, and a bunch of other things. Like, the studies that he's doing are really fascinating and eye-opening.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just, so, you, as well-intentioned you may be, so like I said, but I think that's what people don't, like, I just saw someone, it was in a Facebook group of us, posting, hey, I got vaccinated. And then, all the comments, everyone's got someone say, oh, sheep and stuff like this. I'm just like, see, that's the play, right?
What?
Like, that is the play. Like, that is the goal. And I can't remember we talked about it before. I sent you, I think I told you the guy, you even sent the book of like how to, well, there's videos too, from other leaders, but basically how to destabilize a nation.
Oh yeah.
And then the one guy that was talking about like basically how he was, it's not, I don't think it was the actual Illuminati, but in an elite group of individuals that make some key decisions, right? And then he kind of defected from or whatever, but talked about that as well as like these stepped out plans to basically do the same thing, right? Destabilize a nation. And like, this is part of it, right? It's not about like, you guys think it's about, taking the vaccine or not taking the vaccine and this and this. And it's like, no, it's just for you to do this, right? For you to go on the other side. And like, and I think that's accelerated so much this year.
And I think probably more often than not, it's like a smokescreen. It's like, let me dangle this shit in front of your face to, keep you guys arguing while I go over here and I, pass this, whatever, huge bill to do this and that, to I don't know, to cut a break for my buddy, or, give some tax breaks to whatever. Or to,
right. Well, even if something's not passed, what's that quote from Lincoln, right? A house divided amongst itself cannot sit. Like, that's that you can, like, again, if I was going to destroy someone's relationship or a couple, right? And not just like a relation, like a business, like that's the play, right? Yeah. Like, there has to be this first, and then it's really easy to separate and destabilize whatever I'm trying to do. But if there's unity in that, it's like almost impossible. So it's just like, that is the play. Like, to have that always going, like you said, whether I have something like right now or not, I'm trying to, slip under you. Just having that going on puts you at a disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to get your opinions on, because the bill for the increased minimum wage just got shut down, even though the Democrats have a super majority.
Yep.
And I was, so a couple of things, but first is it was a lot of talk. It was a lot of talk coming from them boys when they get elected, Biden gets elected, and they can take control of the House and the Senate.
Help is on the way.
Yeah, help is on the way. They're gonna do all this shit, X, Y, and Z. $2,000 checks every month and all this shit. Y'all got a super majority. You could pass it through if you wanted to. Like, straight up. If y'all voted party lines, you could do it if you wanted. Nothing. They still haven't even. I'm pretty sure the stimulus got held up in the Senate.
Yeah, they're still like voting. They pulled an all-nighter, which is just the funniest fucking thing to me. But
yeah, that's some bullshit.
But I saw that. I'm like, bro,
don't play us.
Like, oh my god,
y'all 90-year-old asses ain't staying up all night.
Exactly. Oh my, that, and it's so fun. I like the narratives that are put out there that people actually believe, like, pulled an all-nighter. I just laughed to myself when I saw that. I'm like, wow, people really just like pulled an all-nighter. Okay, that's interesting.
An all-nighter, yeah, at the strip club maybe.
Oh god.
Okay, so what's your just in general, what do you think about the increased minimum wage, having it be 15 instead of whatever 8 something or whatever it is now?
Yeah, so again, me, I'm gonna go principle based, right? And principle based tells me that it's due, it's needed. I don't think it's going to. Now, when I say that, I don't think it's going to solve a lot of the problems that people think it's going to solve. Actually,
correct.
I know it won't, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the fact that Americans' expenses have gone up year over year over year for the last, let's just say, the last 50 years, 25 years even. Yeah. And that the person's wage is staying the same. It's just out of principle, right? Like the cost of living is rising so far past what people's living wage is being. That's a huge issue, right? You're going to hit this ceiling fan where, you're going to be in trouble, right? Like and it's going to be harder for, if you were to have, like, let's say 2008, 2009 happens again, where everyone got hit. There's a lot of, again, the people who suffer the most is usually the middle class, right? The upper class is usually gonna be fine. The lower class was already ain't half shit. It's the middle class usually gets hit the most. And so there was a
huge like redistribution of wealth that happened in that crash. And that's what was really sick about the whole thing, was how like the middle class got undercut, and all of the the people that are rich, that they are able to finesse and like maneuver and pivot and not take, if they took a loss, they minimized it,
right? Absolutely. Or get bailed out.
And so that just created a larger gap between the poor and the rich, which
absolutely. Yeah, no, you're so right. And so, like, if that were to happen, it makes it harder for that person to recover, even that hard work, the person who's trying to do everything, right? I'm not saying, like, not like, oh, you're some lazy individual, when that gap is just, when it's like, oh, well, that happened and now the cost of living is here again, and then that just stays there. So I would say, in principle, yes, I think that should be raised, right? I don't think that that's a good thing long-term for anybody. But I don't think that that's going to solve a lot of the problems that people think, like, oh, I get $15 and then, I'm going to be able to be livable. Like, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. Because we've discussed multiple times, like, all of this, life in general comes down to discipline. And so like, I know for me, maybe, and maybe if I had if I had a family and, whatever it does, if I had a bunch of other things, like, thankfully my life has gone relatively smooth, but like I've had my bumps, you know what I mean? Like, but if I were making, minimum wage, I know for a fact I could make it work. I know that I would be able to make it work in a way that I win, that I would be, I would be able to save money. But that's because I'm like a super disciplined person, and like I track and follow, like, I'm very intentional about what I do with my money. Like, I control it. And so with that being said, I think that it's clearer now than ever that I think my biggest reason for supporting this is that the gap between the rich and the middle class is widening. And there's still plenty of people that are able to make, a solid living.
Absolutely.
But that's not really the point. Like, the point is to, like, I've just seen too many examples of, there's a dude on Twitter, I don't remember his name. So I think he's some dude, and he's a CEO in Seattle, and he said that he cut his CEO wages by like $1 million a year, and so that he could pay all of his employees like 75,000 or something like that. So like the minimum starting rate is 75,000, and it's like, that doesn't. What is you as a CEO going from, let's say, like 2 million to 1 million, like, annually? How much did you really lose? Like, and you get the stability of, paying your employees a wage that's, that essentially puts them in a position where they don't have to worry about anything. You know what I mean? Like, if they blow their money, then that's on them. But if they're like smart about it, then the debt collectors aren't down their throats, and then you get a more stable workforce, people that actually want to put more effort in. Like, I feel like and that's a sort of an extreme example, I guess, because obviously $15 an hour does not add up to 75,000 a year. But it's not a bad example, or it goes to show that the principle of increasing the minimum wage could really do a lot of good.
Yeah, like I said, I think, like, just on that instance, like, it has to be. Now, here's what at least my take is on it. I think where most people get caught up is, yes, like I said, I believe in supporting that. People say, well, look at all these, all the money these billionaires made, and the gap is widening. And I say, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. Well, and this is what I ask myself. What are you not going to do? What are you doing daily to get in that same exact position? Because I think where the argument, where people think that, and I've talked about this before, along with kind of like slavery and things like that. Like, as long as I have the opportunity, I'm okay. Like, do I have the opportunity to build my wealth? I'm not saying I'm going to be Jeff Bezos, right? But do I have the opportunity to start getting up there and getting decisions where, when something happens, I can be one of those people? Like, everyone wants to say, oh, it's not fair. Like, the people, they got connections and they got money and they have influence and impact. And so someone would come to their rescue.
But if that person was in that rich person's seat, they would be acting the same way.
Right. Well, that's my thing, right? Like, am I able to get up there? Because if I can, that's whatever you want to say about it. That's what I should be doing so that I can be in that place of impact and influence and things like that. Right. Like that's just, the world is not a fair place, right? Yeah. Like I'm sorry, it's everyone's not, fair is right. Everyone's not like, I want the equal chance, not for us all to be necessarily equal, right? I think that there are some things that, like I said, we should look at as a society, like the living wage thing is why, and just say like, hey, every human deserves this basic right? I believe that healthcare should be part of that, right? Like, I don't think anyone should be, in this time and day and age of just where the world is at, especially in this country, should be deciding like, oh, I'm not going to go do this because, right. And like putting my health or my family's health at detriment because I can't cover the bill for like, to me, that's ridiculous, right? We're still making like barbaric decisions there. However, like I said, outside of that, like the type of quality of life, I don't think that everyone's responsible. Like, yes, as long as you have the opportunity, the ability to go above and beyond, it's your duty to do that. And there's things that come with that, right? Just like we've talked about before. I want to be as wealthy as possible because I want to, not just for myself, I want to protect me and mine. I want to impact. I know that that's going to come with impact and influence in certain areas and organizations and things and changes that I think I would want to contribute to or change. And along with that, just like if I saw, let's say there's two people, right? Class example, Owen, my boy, I've known Owen for a while, right? Since we were back in kids. If there was two people struggling, two people hanging from a cliff, two people, financially out of a job or something, I'm gonna pick Owen.
Yeah.
Is that fair? I don't, what do you like? And like you said, I think in that situation, everyone would. So like when these things hit, of course someone's gonna come and I'm gonna bail out Owen. I'm gonna help Owen.
And that's something that I think maybe we don't talk about enough in our society is like, I think a lot of people want to think that there's everything's relative and that there's no real like hierarchy to things, and kind of live it. I think nihilism perpetuates a lot where people just think that nothing means anything. Mm-hmm. And that's just not true. I mean, like that example right there is an example that proves that there is value and there is a hierarchy to everything in this world. And so like, in that example, I'm going to give preference to some random stranger who's in trouble just because.
Right. And here's the other thing about that could switch, even though it's about circumstances. Let's say that there's been something that's like wiped out a large population, and we're in a state of survival and we need to repopulate, right, the planet. And the other person, even though they're a stranger, is a female, a young, healthy female. And I can only save one of you. I may calculate in that decision, I need to save the female first and help her rebound back for the cause that we're trying to do, even though Owen's my boy. You see, like,
that's the same barbaric decision that some people got to make when it comes to healthcare.
Right.
Where like, I know for me growing up, like there was a lot of times where it was like, suck it up. You ain't going to no hospital. Like, I mean, there's plenty of, like nasty cuts that I got from smashing in the shit where, could have easily got stitches, but it's like, we ain't, unless a bone's sticking out, we ain't going to no hospital.
Right.
So, it was just like, that was sort of and that I'm not bragging about that. It's not I'm not like, I would have, looking back on it, it probably would have been nice to have a little bit of reassurance when, like I'm squirting blood everywhere. That as a kid,
right.
I haven't had that situation in a while, but as a kid, like you're just fucking around, summer break, doing scooter tricks and skateboarding like that and playing football with the boys. Like I could have easily had several trips to the hospital, but like it just that wasn't it. And so it's I don't want that to be a choice for my family growing up, like in the future. And so like for my kids, I wanted to, obviously I care about their health and I want them to be safe. I also want to, make sure they're tough and rugged and like understand the world. But, stuff like that's like you said, those are barbaric decisions.
Right.
When it comes to this,
right. Because the decision is of your parents. Like to go back to your example, it's like, it wasn't usually like tough it up just because like, oh, they're being rude. It was like, because dude, just going to the emergency room is probably gonna land us $5,000 whether they do anything to you or not. We ain't got $5,000 just to waste. You like
exactly
like, and to me, like I said, the fact that you have to make that that should not happen in this day and age with all the technology and that shouldn't be a thing. Like,
and it got
that
to
should
the
be
point,
a consideration.
Yeah, and it got to the point where even for me, I'm still like, in my head, it's built in that like most of the time doctors just like tell you a couple things and then send you on your way with a bill. And I'm like, well, like even as a kid, I remember the few times that we went to the doctor, like if I was sick, like if I had strep throat or something like that, they would we'd go in there. I wouldn't test positive or whatever for strep throat, but my throat would be killing me. And I remember, God, this is crazy. I would like embellish the things that I said to the doctor because I knew that I had to embellish the things to make it sound worse than it really was, so that I could actually get something from the doctor and not just well, just rest and you should be all right.
Right.
Because like I didn't bring my ass here for you to tell me to rest. Give me something.
Right.
And like looking back on it, that's so crazy to me that I can't believe that was some shit.
Right.
I mean, anytime I went to the doctor, anytime I'm like and I would tell my mom, I'm like, I'm gonna make sure, and she's like, don't come in here and not get something for what we're doing. We are about to, we're not coming in here to get told to rest.
Right.
She'd be like, just tell him it's a little bit worse than and I'm like, yeah, I got you. I got you. I know. And it's like, that is so crazy that I did that shit. I would lie.
It is, but that's what I'm saying. The fact that someone's in that position is ridiculous. And so like that's where I'm at, where like, and I said, like, I think people try to make it too sinister and they try to make themselves the victims and things like that. And to me, it's just like, of course it's not fair.
It ain't that. Yeah.
Right. At court, like you said, like, of course.
Welcome to life as a fucking human.
Right. I don't like, that's always been a part of life. I don't think it's ever going to stop. And I like, to me, I'm not trying to stop that. I think that people would think that's bad. They got these treatments and like, yeah, I'm trying to figure out what can I do to get closer and closer to that so I can get treatment. Right. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I agree. I think it's bad. Just like we just talked about. I don't think you should have to consider that. And I think it's barbaric and all these things. And so I'm not sitting around waiting for, oh, government, please, and whining. I'm like, how can I make so much money so that if my kid breaks his fucking arm, I'm like, we going to the hospital. I don't care. Like,
it's not even
15 grand. Here we go. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I'm trying to
healthcare or not. Like, it's not even,
Exactly. And I think the focus of where we put things is all wrong. Right. Like I said, I know I can recognize and see things are focused, but my focus is on this is the game. And I think part of it, and I'm prefacing this saying, I think other people can realize this, but I think part of it is because I'm an African-American male, right? And I understand our history and things. And I just understand that like no one is coming to say, it's just like, that ain't it. Like, yes, it's unfair. Yes, they're going to think this. Yes, that, and because of all these things. Okay. So like, do everything you can with all that still being there and figure out how to combat that, because I still believe that people, as crazy as it may be, I believe that someone in America has the right to be racist. I'm not racist. Racism, and I think, is actually not good, but I believe in someone else's right to be racist, right? And because of that, I'm gonna make sure I do everything to like, combat
that. So like that's a nuanced thing to say, because yes, I'm for another person's freedom to think their own way. So yeah, you do have the right to be racist, but that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it correct.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have the freedom to be wrong. So like, but then I also have the freedom to prove that I'm right, or that prove that you're wrong. That's sort of the like, I mean, I guess that's kind of where we differ from like China's government or Russia's government, where it's like everything is controlled and sort of centralized, totalitarian, whereas we have sort of in our society decentralized control to every individual, and so that allows for every individual to think the way that they want to think.
Right.
And then automatically allows for wrong thinking.
Yeah, and to me, like I said, I always take the play of like, I don't know if it's right or wrong, right? But here's what I know is that we're all on this planet together. And so like I said, I'm like people in racism.
I'm not sure that that's possible. Yeah.
Right. Like I really couldn't care less. Be racist. But if we're all gonna be, you know what I'm saying? Like, but if we're like, I don't care if you're fucking racist, be a racist if that's what you want to do. All I care about is that if we're all gonna be here, that I have the same opportunity to get as far or do what you can do as well. You can not like me because of my skin color. I don't give a fuck. Just make sure I have the same opportunity to whoop your ass, just like you have the same opportunity to whoop my ass.
Well, and that's I think that's the main, and you know, a lot of this whole racism in general is a very nuanced conversation that there is not much nuance used typically when that conversation, you know, comes up, when that topic comes up. But it's, you know, it's like you are in a position where you have to live with the fact that you're probably going to encounter someone in your life that is going to treat you differently because of your skin color.
Right.
And like, but that's, you know, I'm going to, there's plenty of things that are like that in this life. And so it's what it seems like you're getting at is kind of like, so what? There, like, it could be any number of things that make people hate me.
Right.
It doesn't, whatever. It could be because I'm like taller than them. You know what I mean? Somebody got little man syndrome and they just like don't like people that are taller than them.
Right.
Like yes. So like that hating someone because they're taller than you is technically wrong. If we want to get down to like morals and logic, like that's probably not the best way to operate. And so in the same sense, not liking someone because of their skin color is the same thing. Or if because they got brown hair or blue eyes or whatever. Right. Like skin color is just, my hope is that one day skin color becomes something like hair color, where it's like, oh, you're just, you know
what's interesting, and this is my firm belief, and I can look back and even in slavery times and see where this happened, where my thing is like, cool, wrong, right, I don't care, I'm not going to debate with you on that, because my morals may not be your morals, you can think you're right, whatever. Cool, here's what I know. If I have value that you need, you're going to want my value. Even if you don't like doing business with me, even if you don't want to hang out with me,
like you said, there's plenty of examples. There's plenty of examples of that throughout history. Like,
and so, but people don't like, people want to focus on just that. And so here's my thing is, cool. And I've had this happen over my course of my life. You think this about me or don't like me because of this, or you don't have enough experience with Black people, and so you think all that, like, I mean, all types of things, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That hasn't, like, but I know that if I have value, like, you're gonna need something, like, you know what I'm saying, like that trumps it. So like, I'm focused on that. How can I just be such a
undeniable? How can you
be like wealth of like to society in general, where even the individual who by their principle of morals hates me is like, okay, well, I mean, you know, if I had to, like, and I think that's where all our energy, time, and effort should focus on as an individual, on that, rather than the fact that someone hates me or may not like me. And like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Who cares? To me, that just, it doesn't help it. I know that I'm not likely not going to change that person's perception at all or beliefs, and it's not going to serve me in any way. So like, what are we, that it's just like spending energy on something that's not going to go anywhere. So I'd rather just figure out, like, how can I be a badass and be amazing in all types of ways, shapes, or form. And if somebody needs something, they not gonna care at the end of the day. Because if Buddy was dying hanging at the end of his cliff and you hate Black people and I'm the only one fucking around and I can pull you up off that cliff, I bet you're gonna grab my hand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's that goes to show how it takes a lot of experience and exposure and what's the word I'm thinking of? Experience and like education to be in a position where you recognize how, because like there was I forget the dude, Daryl something. He was on Joe Rogan podcast. He wrote a book about, he was this Black guy that like infiltrated the KKK.
Oh yeah.
And
it's like what the movie Black Klansman is about.
Yeah. And so he just like, he wasn't, intimidated. He wasn't a pushover. Like he was just a regular dude. And started to like basically do interviews and try to understand the KKK members in his community and try to figure out like, okay, why? Like, so help me understand why you believe this sort of thing. And, amazingly, like they were willing to, it wasn't a thing that they weren't confrontational towards him just because he was Black. There's some degree of like recognition of dignity to him as a man.
Right.
But, enough to talk to him, but probably not enough to interact, like, like start a business or some, whatever.
Right.
Basic like exchange probably. Anyway, so, over the years, he talked to, I don't know, maybe hundreds or thousands of KKK members. And just from talking to them and trying to understand them, he converted hundreds of KKK members they're just like, wait, what am I doing? Because, and that's, I guess that's one of the main things that contributes to a lot of the bullshit going on with these sort of conversations about race today, is that like maybe, and you could argue that trying to understand racism or understand a racist is a waste of time. And that's fine. You could say that. But if you want to actually change people's minds, you need to understand them first. So if you want to change racism, if you want to truly end racism, maybe you should consider trying to understand why people are racist. And then if you have better ideas, the better ideas almost always win. In the
Exactly.
end, they win.
And I mean, it goes back to what we were saying earlier, because believe it or not, part of even racism and how it's ingrained in this culture has to do with what we were talking about earlier. the governing body saying, if you guys are like this, right? That was like the first really big one, like black, white, black, white, black, white, black, white. Like, yeah, it's like you're so amongst yourselves. Black. Yeah, it's just like it's so silly, and it's like, yeah, if you sit down, like, and like I said, most people interact with each other or don't. The best thing is they don't interact with each other, right? It's just like, oh, you're on that, so I'm gonna go on this side of the street. Yeah. Then it's if they are gonna interact, it's gonna be aggressive and animosity between them instead of, like I said, just like, dude, why don't you fuck with me? What I've done to you? Like I would like, no, help me truly understand. And you have this conversation here, and like I said, if you do that about any topic, you will realize that first of all, more than likely, you guys actually share the same belief. And it's actually a narrative that was presented to you that makes you think something about this person that's usually not true, right? Or a group of people or something like that that's usually not true. And you guys are using it, and you're like, oh shit, but the narrative, and you don't know, and usually most people can't pinpoint where they got that belief. It's just like, that's just like how it was, right? Like, I don't know. It's like my granddaddy told me, and his granddaddy told him, and I don't, like, it's just like, it's like, exactly.
It's sort of a thoughtless, it's just like a tradition.
Right.
More than a clearly thought out system and principles.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So, and like, so we saw that with like the black, like, the Black Lives Matter movement, like that's what, and like I said, the media now really help, like that's a tool, and we've talked about before, to use in a program to make you, because what was the big one that I think is about Black Lives Matter, right? The two narratives I've heard is that Black Lives Matter is about, fuck the police, we don't need the police, take over the police, get rid of them.
Yeah.
And
abolish the police.
Right. And like basically, stealing, like, I don't know, like basically we matter more than you, like almost black, supremacy almost. Yeah. And it's like, I bet you if you actually talk to most of those people that went out and were protesting, that's not the way that they feel at all. Most people I think most of us would sit down and agree that if I would like the concept of being able to have to call the police if necessary. Like, it's like, that's not it, right? And I think like most people would agree with that, but it's like, you people, I give you this narrative and I say, that's what this is about. And so then you're like, oh yeah.
We're still chimps, my dude.
Yeah, dude, it's
some people are like real close. They evolved a couple of 1,000 years ago. Yeah. But tying this back into the minimum wage thing, I think that we've talked before about how when you are stressed, and particularly on money, you get dumber.
Yep.
And then so that being said, but then also, I believe, and I don't know what you think about this, but I'm not convinced that everyone is capable of being like super wealthy or rich or whatever, or a mogul. So I think, and that's, one of the beauties of our society is that for the most part, we cover the people that are not able to, just straight up, like it could be a like IQ thing. Like the people that I've seen and I've interacted with, like just in general, there are some people that I know that just they wouldn't be able to finesse their money and put it in like control it so that it works for them. Some people just like struggle with that concept. And like, if you're not good with money and you're not a very disciplined person, or like, and I'm not, I guess I feel bad saying this, but it's kind of like with how the military doesn't accept 10% or more, about 10% of the population into the military because they don't have a high enough IQ. So like, it's hard because the narrative today is like anybody can do anything. If you just, coach them up enough and like train them enough, they can do anything. Well, to some extent, yes, but also no. And so the reality is that like, I don't believe that everyone can be wealthy. So I think it's appropriate that a wage that is maybe even a little bit more than livable might be better than the alternative. Just because, one, for the first point, it actually might increase in, like, if you're not in survival mode, you're able to focus your brain on learning mode and be able to build yourself and grow and not be so, on edge all the time that you've got to, that you can't really focus on. Sorry, I have something is on my screen. There we go. You're able to focus and like put your efforts into other things if you actually are making enough money to not be in survival mode. But then also, as much as I would want everyone to become rich, I don't believe that it's possible.
So I would go slightly the opposite way of where you're going, where I do believe that anyone they have the ability to be wealthy. I think part of that equation is that person has to want and desire that, has to be open and willing and ready to.
Yeah. And I should define what I mean by, like, I was saying rich on purpose.
Right.
I think that anyone can be wealthy. Anyone can be wealthy. Because I see wealth as, like, money is part of it, but I would kind of say that, if you make enough money to keep the debt collectors away, and like and you're comfortable, like, that is money wealth. But there's relationship wealth and friendship wealth, and there's a bunch of different factors that go into that. I think being rich like that, I don't think that everyone can be a millionaire, essentially, is what I'm saying.
So I would go and I'd say I think everyone can, right? But like you said, there's so many factors that go into it.
Yeah.
You have to be open-minded because remember, I've said this before, the simplest principle to becoming wealthy or rich, even financially, right? Let's specifically bring it around financially, is as simple as this. Find rich people and do what rich people do.
Yeah.
Find poor people and do not do what they do, right?
Yeah. So in that way, in that sense, I think, yes, if anyone adopts those ideas, they can be rich.
Well, right, because I'm giving an oversimplification to say that you can, but what happens during that is people may look at what a rich or wealthy person does and go, well, that doesn't make any sense. Or why would you do that? Or I would never do that. Or I just don't understand the stock market. I could never learn. So now it's not, you can't, because you're putting caps on yourself. You're not open to doing something different.
Yeah.
You only want to do the way your granddad, who died without fucking shit, told you to do what to do with money.
Yeah.
Oh, you are telling yourself you can't learn the stock market, like this person built the motherfucking stock market and didn't just go study and learn, like you have the ability to go study and learn, right? You know, like, and so that's what I think, like, is that like everyone can, but everyone's not gonna have the discipline, the willingness, the readiness to, even if I don't, like, again, when I get around wealthy individuals, right? Like I just told, I think I mentioned to you, like, last time, like the mentor I just hired, I paid to do $55,000, right? I don't understand everything he does or says. I don't need to understand it because he is fucking wealthy. I need to realize that what's got me here is not going to get me there, and that the challenge to my thinking on how I look at things is necessary to reach that next step. When people aren't able to do it, well, this is just the way I do it. Okay, well, this is just the way you should stay where you fucking are at and die, because like you're like, and so they're making themselves incapable because you're not open and willing to being like, maybe my belief or how I perceive something is not the best way or is completely wrong. And when you're not able to do that, then you've decapitated.
That's a huge thing. I know for a lot of people that are close to me, that is a big part of why they're at where they're at, is because it's one, that first part where it's it's too difficult, or that's just not something that I can do.
Right.
Or it's a fear of success almost. And so it's like, if I were to be able to figure it out, then what would I do with that?
Mm-hmm.
I think, and I have friends that even that sort of slows them up sometimes, where it's like, who knows what they could do? Only they know.
Right.
But it's capped by your own imagination, essentially. If you can think it, then you can make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to be very, very precise with the way that you think. And that's, that's not new to us. Like we talk about that all the time. And so that's sort of the idea, is it's, what you think of comes true. And so if you spend your time thinking about, butterflies and rainbows, like, probably just going to be a lot of butterflies and rainbows. Or if you, spend your time thinking about how other people are cheating the system and you're just over here like, hopeless because everyone's taking from you, then that's going to become your reality. And yeah, everyone is taking from you because you're a, blind idiot thinking that you aren't capable of what they're capable of.
A simple example of that kind of demonstrate what we're talking about. I've heard people close to me say this as well. This is like a lot of people, just since we're coming up on tax time, right? A lot of people say, I pay my taxes. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like, okay. Wealthy people pay their taxes too. But I also take advantage of every legal possibility necessary to not pay more taxes than I have to.
Absolutely.
And people would look at that as like, oh, well, you're doing something more, like, and that they have like the moral high ground. Like, I pay my taxes. It's like, no, you're an idiot. Like,
you want to pay our government to do shit?
Well, it doesn't even make, if in the framework of taxes, which have existed for a very long time in the world, gives you the ability to pay this amount or this amount legally within their system, within the confines of the system that they've created, why would you pay this amount?
Why would you pay more?
Right? Yeah, like, and you're taking like, and it's like, or some people, I just don't understand all that tax. I just give the government what it's like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It's like you're just unwilling to like learn or find or explore or even be open to the fact that I can do better things keeping more of my money than handing it over to people who Lord knows what they're gonna do with the money, right? Probably go to fucking
Sizzler.
Yeah, like, what did old boy from Texas do? Go to Cancun or something like
that?
Yeah. Like,
what the fuck, dude?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
cruise.
It's just, yeah. I'm like, but you take pride in that. It's like, you are a chimp. Like you said, like, you're just mimicking behavior that's been, like, you have no free thought about it. And so, like you said, that person is unable to reach extreme level because, like, you're not willing to even be open to the thought of something different than just what you're doing. Like,
oddly enough, that reminds me of there's so many examples of this where people just regurgitate shit that they hear.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know why, but earlier this week or a couple days ago, I was thinking about this, how when people are talking about restaurants, right, they'd be like, here's what everybody loves to say, okay? They say shit like this. Their appetizers are really good. And that's because they make all their money on the appetizers. They don't make the money on their, entrees. They make the money on the appetizers. What the fuck are you talking about? You know nothing about business. Me, as a business person, if I'm not making money on every dish, I'm fucking up.
Right.
What the hell are you talking about? Yes, they make their money on the advertisers, they make their money on the entrees, they make the money on the desserts, they make the money on the liquor, they make the money on the fucking drinks.
Right.
That's why they charge you $3 for a fucking glass with just regular liquid in it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I cannot believe how many people tell me that shit. And I'm like, no, like, you are dumb. You are wrong and you are dumb. Right. They don't make their money on their advertisers. They make their money on every single fucking thing that they sell.
Right.
And if they don't, they're fucking up.
Right. And they're going to be out of business too.
The amount of, hundreds of people have said that to me. And every time I'm like, what? They make their money on their advertisers? They don't make their money on the entree? Yeah, no.
And can't even explain it. You're so right, but that's what I mean. People just
that just like goes to show that it's like people just stop being chimps.
Right.
Just fucking
it's so think. True. That's hilarious. It's the perfect, like you said, there's so many things where people just say that and it's just like, it's so far, like it has, what are you talking about? What are you talking about?
There's like, that's just one of, I'm sure I'll think of more and bring them back. Oh, but like that shit is so funny to me where people they'll just say things that other people have said. And it's like the narrative.
You know what I think the core belief is, and we've kind of talked about this, but I think the core thing that anyone needs to be successful, honestly, and to become, if you just hold the belief that doesn't matter who it is, where I'm at, the system's in place, it likely does not have my personal best interest at heart. If you just can remember that, not that they're necessarily trying to do anything negative or hurt me, but just that like this system, like I just got here, this system been a long way before me. So it's not built specifically for my best interest.
Yep.
And you just hold that belief, you'll start to question and look at things different. Like, okay, that's cool that that's there. What's in my best interest?
And also, if you look at the history of like a lot of the founding fathers and then like important people, even like Frederick Douglass, like, and the reason I brought him up was because for Black History Month, I had my kids read like a bunch of Frederick Douglass shit because I love him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so all thinkers throughout the history of our country, not all, many thinkers throughout the history of our country, and the things that they wrote to each other, especially during the founding era when like the country was being pieced together, the main like narrative that the most profound thinkers shared was like, we need to have citizens that don't trust the government. We need to have citizens, and that's part of the reason for the right to bear arms, and for freedom of speech, because people need to be able to express their distrust, but also just to like have their antennas up and be like aware of when shit is funny, when it don't be making sense. They are ready and prepared to like push back on it, and there's nothing holding them back. And so being a self-governing person, that's another like one of the big phrases that was thrown around back then was that they wanted to have a self-governing body politic. And that's something I feel like we don't really talk about that much anymore. But being able to, I think self-governing is pretty much exactly what the point that you're getting at, where it's like, only person I can rely on is me. To look out for me, it's me. And maybe my family. Other than that, ain't nobody give a fuck about me.
And not even my family. And again, that's what I mean. It's not malicious. Just had I come like done my family, like everyone.
It's actually it's actually on purpose.
Right.
That you need the government isn't capable of. We can't, like, even back then, the government couldn't like individually handle every person in the country. So it was designed for a decentralization so that each individual person could then self-govern and be able to like it, and it's not a like you said, it's not a malicious thing. It's not like the government is big brother and like watching over your shoulder and trying to do X, Y, and Z. Maybe to some extent that's possible. Who knows? I don't. But for the most part, and in practice, that's not the case. Is that the reality is you control what you want to control. If you want to go do something, you go do it.
Right. Well, and it goes both ways, because just as they added that, right, they also turned around and said, hey, these idiots, we don't trust them to actually free think and be aware enough to elect even us. And so we're going to tell them we believe you and that you have the ability to choose who's going to go up here, but really only we are going to, right? And again, to me, that's not sinister. It's and that's what I mean by it's necessary. Like, I cannot have a country. I can't, again, think of your group of friends. I cannot take out 10 group of friends, your family, try to get them all on the same page and do some shit. Like, I can't have everyone trying to do their own thing and be like, so we have to give a narrative and a thing where you just fall in line. But like you said, you should also be simultaneously, like you were saying for them, be realizing that, hey, we put this in place because we can't build a nation of people without getting fucking wiped out that are going to be on the same page without it. But you should also be enough to say, okay, I understand that, but that also doesn't mean that this system or the way you guys are doing things are in my best interest. And the extraordinary individuals in history in our society are always the people that look at what's going on around and didn't just say, oh, okay, I'm just doing what everybody else does. Like, you're like, no extraordinary person in history does that. It's always a person who goes, okay, yeah, I understand that's the confines that everyone, like, that we're going under. I'm going to go step outside of it over here so that I can catapult past all of you people.
Do your own thing
in many different areas, right?
Well, and that's kind of the beauty of our country. And I was thinking about this earlier this week, how I was thinking about innovation and how, you know, you look at some of the more like some of the very strict and like totalitarian governments in the world. Mm-hmm. And innovation doesn't come out of those places.
Right.
Which is so fascinating to me because, and I think this fits what you're saying, where it's like our government, our society is set up in the United States where, and really in the West in general, it allows for that person that steps out of the mainstream and allows them to sort of, you know, we give them a little wiggle room to say like, okay, are you Elon Musk or are you the Unabomber? You know what I mean? Like and so like part of the I guess the drawback of that is we do get the Unabomber, but we also get Elon Musk. And quite frankly, I think I'm okay with that.
Exactly. That's my point. Like you said, so that's what it just goes back to what we're talking about. Like, that's what's needed. And so the people who think that you're on some superior higher end, you're like, you're the smart, because I just do what's step, like, this is what we do. You're the, like, it's like, no, like, that's not
you're
where, the innovate, like any, right. Yeah. Like, you're just a part of the system and
I guess that, you know, going back to what I was saying about how I don't believe everyone is it can be, I guess maybe I should choose my words a little more carefully. I think anyone can be wealthy.
Right. They just won't be.
But they just don't do they just choose not to.
Right.
And so that the person that does that has that sort of response is the sort of person that isn't going to make the choices that put them in a position to be.
You know what's a perfect example of that?
Like say that again?
You know what's a perfect example of exactly what you're saying? And it's hard for us to believe now. There was a point in history where people looked up in the sky and were just like, damn, we'll never be up there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just like, darn. But like that's just, it just is like, like, until someone's like.
And even deeper, before we thought that it was like a dome, the earth was flat and it's just this dome that we're sitting in, which like makes a lot of sense. Cause like if you're just standing on it looks kind of like there's like a giant dome over you of space. And so it started with like thinking about, what the fuck is out there?
Right.
And then as technology, over the years, studying space became more of a thing, and here we are now.
Right, but it starts with like, do you know how radical that would be? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people think that, oh, I'm the smart, intelligent one. Like, yes, in the years there was people who were just like, no.
You know how many people got killed for thinking that the world was round, the Earth was round?
Right. Exactly.
Like, that shit. I'm trying to remember the scientist's name. It started with a G, I feel like.
You're talking about Galileo or
Galileo, that's his name. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, I think he was killed for the studies and shit that he did. Or at least he like had I know he was like very, very what do you call it?
Pivotal. And you're so right.
He from his culture, like at that time, he got all the hate.
I was just about to say that you're so right that most of the people that we look at now and stuff like him, and that's what people don't realize. It wasn't like in their time they were just like, you're the smartest person in the world. Oh yeah, like usually it's just like people were like, you're like, fuck out of here.
Yeah,
and then people go back and they're like, damn, hey, you remember homie that we killed and thought was crazy?
Yeah. I mean, Plato,
right,
is probably one of the early ones. Jesus,
right?
Like it's the same story over and over again. It's just it's crazy that, and we tend to. It's weird. I don't know why we think. I think it's really just because we don't study or learn history. So like if you learn history, you see patterns in the way that things happen, and like Galileo to Plato, like even to Nietzsche, like Nietzsche was not nobody gave a fuck about what that dude was saying back in the day.
Right.
And then, after he dies, everybody wants to give him his roses because it's like, oh shit, he predicted World War I and World War II 40 years before anyone even was aware that might even happen.
Yeah, to me, like you said, if you look at history, like that's what we're saying. Like you'll find the people, and it's like that's where it lives. Like that's the other side. So like anyone who's thinking like, no, like you just follow the system. It's like, no, the system, any system that's in place is created for two reasons. One, to control. That's the only like. When I have to have some sort of control and
order.
Order on
it's
there.
Not, and it's not sinister control.
Right? No, exactly. Like we need like that. Like even back in tribal, like everyone just can't be like we would have died out. To be
the alternative is anarchy. So like we don't want
right. Well,
or it's just totalitarian control by like whoever has the biggest army.
Right, and
that was what it was for the longest.
It just would have been that we ceased to exist. Yeah. Like the reason we survived against all these other things that were big dinosaurs and shit that are big enough that fucking died out was our ability to get into community and to do things together. Like there was all types of shit that could have just fucking literally wiped us out. If we're all just like, I'm doing this and like we're not shit. You know what I'm saying? Like So it's like that's needed, but you also have to recognize that any system in place is only as good of a system as it could be at the time that it was set up. So like, and that's why I hate this belief around like, no, the founding fathers put this, we can't touch it. I'm like, and like you said, if you study it, you go back, that's not what they wanted.
It was designed to be changed and edited and adaptable.
Fuck. Exactly. So because like any system put in place is only a good enough system for that time. It's like, it has to be challenged and pushed and changed for the next, like that's supposed to happen. And so when people just think like, oh, I don't want to rock the boat, or I'm not going to think that, like, it's like, okay, well, you're going to stay there and you're going to have all the problems that everyone in this system has problems with. And like you said,
and there's no changing it.
Right.
Like you just get to sit there and suffer.
Right. That, and like, that's my thing. Like, okay, so just stay there and die. Like sorry.
Bye. Yeah.
Like, and like you said, it's the people closest to us sometimes. And it's like, it's sad to see, but it's like, dude, you like, okay, I don't know what else to tell you, but like I'm not gonna like I can't, right? Like this like once you look at that and like that what I just told, like what we just talked about is an instant, like it's truth, it's fact. Any system put in place, like I said, you can look at this history over and like there's a reason we're not still doing shit that we were doing in 500 BC. Because that system, which was the greatest thing in 500 BC, is not the greatest thing anymore. Someone came and challenged and thought differently and changed the system.
Because it was back then, it was all kings. And so whoever was either like blood, whatever the bloodline was, or like basic, and before the bloodline became a thing, it was whoever had won the battles and like was the winner of the fucking battles of wars and shits. So like after a while, the ancient Greece came around and was like, maybe we should try this like democracy thing. Well, and that didn't work out quite as well because it was too divided.
Right.
And like things evolved through, and then Rome came around and they created, and they had the idea of the republic, where representatives go and take the spot of, instead of every single individual having the a vote or being a representative, it's groups of individuals select who represents them, and then like it just went on from there. Like that's a very vague history, but like generally speaking, that's pretty much what happened. Was like we went from barbarism to where we're at now in a relatively quick amount of time, as far as like the history of the world goes. Like we're on a pretty good track, and people have way more.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Given you knowing the history and seeing the pattern of history, do you think that our democracy, which is really a democratic republic, right, will stand the test of time?
That is a great question. I waver on that. Some days, yeah. Some days I'm like, no way. If you ask me on the day of the Capitol riot thingies, whatever, the idiots that went in there and just took selfies. Riot is too strong of a word. The Capitol selfies. I would have been like, I don't think so. But the main thing that gives me hope that it will go on, and I'm probably not going to give a straight answer, so sorry about that. But the main thing that does give me hope that it will be able to carry on long term is what we already discussed, how the founding documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, are sort of pieced together in a way that the Declaration of Independence has a lot of principles in it that are universal, I think. So like they apply to everyone everywhere. And then also the Constitution was designed, like we said, in a way that is malleable and can be changed and amended and etc. So because of that, and because of my belief in human nature and human nature's ability to overall do good more than bad, I think it'll last it'll last longer than any other whatever dynasty, or I don't know what you would call it, any other society or civilization is probably.
What do we need to hit for that? Like 500 years? Would that be like that?
Rome's republic lasted for, I think, like 200 years. And
right.
then it turned
250, right?
Yeah. And it was around 200. And then after that, it turned into like an empire for another like 300. So, you know, you can split hairs. We'll see. You know, like, as long as we still have peaceful transition of power, some people would like to argue that, but it is a peaceful transition of power, more or less. And so, you know, like I would say, I guess technically we've outlasted Rome, but you know, it's you depending on your perspective, you could take a lot of different angles on that. I would say, for me, I'd say, yeah, I think we've outlasted any other civilization. I think there's I don't know, like there's a Cyrus the Great, who he was in the Bible too. I think he had he started he was the king of Persia, and I think Persia lasted for a long time, but it wasn't as stable as like Rome.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know enough of the history of other civilizations to know like exactly what, you know, if we've beat it or if we're not anywhere close. But I'm pretty sure that Rome lasted like the Republic lasted for 200 years, and then it was an empire for like a longer than it was a republic.
That's super interesting. I didn't think you were going to go that way. I think that if I look at the pattern of histories, it's not. Now, I don't, not conspiracy theorists, like it's not going to happen in our lifetime. I don't think it'll happen in our kids' lifetime. I do believe, though, and I'll share why, but that it's not going to last, right?
So what do you mean by last? You mean like forever? Because I don't think forever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, right, if you look at specifically in the West, right, it's like, well, see, democracy works. And so now the goal of the West has been we're going to make everybody Democrat.
Yeah.
Right. And like, that's like their big thing, right? And why we go on these military conquests, because there's no democracy there. We've got to like, you know, and stuff like that. I don't believe that democracy, the Democratic Republic, is going to last. I think that for a couple reasons. One, and this is going to sound crazy, but I think if you look at history, it's not that crazy.
Yeah, we're already like pushing it as
well, yeah, but not even that. I think the world is too peaceful.
Yeah.
If you look at like, and I know it's like, that's kind of weird because the way we get taught history, we look at like in these little clips and like this empire and that, like, but like, so like there was always this, and like, yes, we have gone to war, and like, of course we had world wars, but like the world's been too peaceful, and somebody is going to get trigger happy. Like it like if history tells me like, and it only takes, and if you look at it, like that to happen in some region before it's just like, you know, like everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons.
Go ahead.
So that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is I do believe some of our faults, specifically in America, like we look at the Constitution, and like I said, right now there seems to be this belief that like, oh, if we're going to be real hard-blooded Americans, we don't change this shit. Like it was perfect, and like we just said, like any system that like, so it's going to collapse on itself, because like as time keeps going, that system was not designed to support 300. Like when they sat there and wrote that, they did not think this is going to be in 250 years they're still going to be doing that. You know, like that's not how it was created. They were probably like, this may get us through like the next 5 years if we're lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like when you're thinking about it. And so I think the system's going to collapse upon itself, and something like unless I think how it could go longer is if we come together and say, like, if you just look at the verbiage of it, some of the words that they use just don't have meaning in today's society anymore. Like some, like it just can't support. So that would be one. But then the final thing is, I do believe that we're going to, at some point in history, again, I don't think it's in our lifetime or anytime soon, we're going to get to the point where there is going to be a one world government. And I don't believe that looks like one individual who's ruling the world. I think it's this body of people who just decided like,
well, like the European Union and is it I forget, I think it's the European Union is kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where like all of are we in the European Union? I don't.
Or something like that. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And
there's some like conglomerate.
There's like people that argue the United Nations is that already.
United Nations, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
Right. Yeah. So I get that, but I think it's going to be even more. And like I said, I think that's going to just.
That's the first step, I guess, is that was my point. Is that's right. Like that's heading towards that.
I think what's going to happen is, like I said, it's too quiet, and so as you start to go in, like right now, we're always going to like these middle of nowhere countries, but someone's going to be like, "Fuck it, all right, China." You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, right? You know, like, and you're gonna, and so when you like, if we were to go over there and to conquer Australia or or the UK is actually relatively small, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be huge, and then you've got to like. The president over here, you got to start creating this one world thing. And I also believe that just because that's also in Bible. It's in the Bible that at some point, and like I said, I don't I don't look at it as conspiracy. Like when people think, oh, it's so and so, and they're coming to like I said, I don't think it's that. Like I think it's going to be more collective because that's so much. Like I said, like an organization like the UN, like a collective of individuals that just say, you know what, let's align our fucking shit and like fuck America, fuck Canada. Like we're just going to be the United Nations, whatever, and we're going to fucking run this shit.
Yeah.
So. And I think when you do that, like if we were to take over the UK, it couldn't. What we follow as Americans couldn't apply over the. You've got to rewrite the script. It's something new. It's got to be something new.
Yeah. I think I'm a little more. I lean a little more towards I believe more in the good of humanity than the bad.
Okay, that's interesting.
It's hard to. I do agree that I think we are moving towards a one world government, and I think Bitcoin
will allow for that to happen quicker.
Could become the thing that is the universal currency.
That's part of one of the steps, by the way, necessary.
Which is also both of those things are in Revelation. I guess maybe I just as it stands now, I know that Revelation speaks of this in a very like it's almost like a looming sort of evil thing that's going to happen and like be doing horrible things to people, but as of now I think that good will win.
That's interesting you say that, because I don't look at it as good or bad, right? So first of all, I think you mentioned, just because you mentioned it was in Revelation, I think a lot of people, I don't think Revelation necessarily makes it looming like it's a bad thing, because that would contradict it would contradict itself. Meaning, basically, Revelations is a book where they're saying, hey, this is not good or bad. This is going to happen. As a matter of fact, it has to happen for ultimately what we've been telling you throughout this whole thing, for this to come back to place. And so we can get to this place of harmony, right? Because it talks about that being destroyed, Jesus coming back. But then it talks about there's like a period of time where there's just like, we're just up in heaven, but then there's a new heaven and a new earth created, basically like a restart, right? Yeah. And like, so to me, I don't see it as, like, to me, I would say that it's like this has to like, this is going to implode on itself because it has to, for homie to come back, right? And sorry, Bible people, I'm just like putting some slang on it, right? For homie to come back and be like, y'all fucked this up. I created it and it was dope and y'all fucked it up. And so like we just gonna reset. Y'all come over here with me. We gonna chill out for a minute. I'm gonna recreate this shit, right? So I don't think it is as good or bad when I think of it. I'm just like, I think that's just going.
I guess the tone of it from Revelations is that it's a, because it's necessary to bring the next step, it carries a more like a bunch of evil shit is about to happen.
Right. And that was the other thing I was about to add. The other thing about it is, if you remember, all of Revelation is from a dream, right? It's from dreams and visions that I want to say John.
Yeah, John.
Was having about that Jesus was saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. Well, the other reason where like you have to understand, because like, again, a lot of people think like read Revelation and think it's a future thing. Like you said, a lot of the stuff in Revelation we're going through, like it's a thing that's happening right now. But John wasn't going to be able to lay up however many years ago and be like, oh yeah, Bitcoin and the internet. You see, so like the depictions of how it comes in a dream has to be like, and the 7-headed like monster of X, Y, and Z, you know, like there's like graphic images that we perceive as like, especially because of media and entertainment now, like, oh, that's like, you know, this bad thing, where it's like, no, that's a representation of something, not that there's literally going to be a 7-headed dragon thing that comes down and like is like,
well, there's some, so like the dragon, there's a lot of historical thing, a lot of what would you call it? The dragon is a conglomerate of multiple things that were very dangerous to humans for a long time.
Right.
The dragon is not exactly real, but it's like it's more real than real, because it's piecing together a bunch of things at one time. And so like the scaled dragon type, the scaled creature is a snake. The four-legged sort of like jumping athletic cat-like thing is like the tigers or the jaguars, or like there's a type of cat that had a like tooth in the bottom of its like fucking mouth that was specifically designed to puncture through the back of the human head, like back here.
Mm-hmm.
And so like big cats were a big threat to humans for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so snakes, big cats, then also they can fly, because flying, like giant flying birds were would snatch up babies like nobody's business. That was another one. And then breathing fire. Fire is what allowed humans to become as cognitively advanced as we are today. So smash all that into one thing and you have a dragon. And so that was done over the course of probably thousands, maybe even longer, but over the course of thousands of years, the dragon became the symbol of like, it's the thing that humans wrestle with and compete against. And so like if you look at it at base value, you're like, yeah, dragons aren't real. But if you think about it and know the history, dragons are maybe more real than real.
Right. Because in Greek mythology, like you're saying, a dragon is a representation, like in Greek mythology, it's like it's always a representation of like, oh, the 7-headed dragon was like, no, like the 7 thing, like you said, bad thing, or like to be aware of. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a representation.
And so, I was going to get to the 7-headed thing. Like maybe that's the 7 continents. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's 7, like specific entities that rule this one world government.
Right.
That's probably more likely what it is, because like throughout history, a 7-headed thing it's not a 7-headed like dragon.
Right.
It's not like, what the hell does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And I think people have dreams like this where they'll see like a snake with a bunch of heads or something like that. And people have done a lot of studies on dreams and what different things mean. Like Freud did this a lot. Carl Jung advanced it a lot. Studying of dreams is fascinating, but it would be interesting to apply a lot of those concepts to Revelations. And one of the 7-headed, whatever it is, beast thing, like could very well be the 7, 7 groups of whatever, the 7 government things that.
And the reason being, by the way, is because a human cannot dream past what it already knows. So that's why I always hate when people look at that and try to take it as literal, because the Bible is specifically in that prefaces this with, it's like it was through a dream, which like say, if you understand, it's like, so some of the things he's saying, like, so they represent most of the, like almost everything represents something. We're not actually looking for that thing.
Yeah.
To show up and manifest itself in today's world.
And I can't tell you how many people that are just like on the look for the Antichrist at all times. Like, where's he at? Like, idiot.
Right. Yeah. That is because it's funny, right? Because we know who Christ is. And we know what anti means. Anti is just opposed to, it's against, it's the opposite.
Well, people think that it's like this, it's going to be this one person, but it's like, that's so silly. It's not.
Yeah, I mean, even if it was, it's just like.
Hitler is the Antichrist.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like people, it's
what?
like, right. It's like, if that person was actually there, we'd be much farther along in this thing. Like, yeah, so it's like, it's not just a bad person you don't like isn't the Antichrist, basically.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him like is Obama the Antichrist, and then it says Trump. Like there's always like, every leader of anything's always like, is they the Antichrist? It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that's so ridiculous. Religion is really corrosive to the mind.
Yep. Which, by the way, which is hilarious. I always love when religious
can be corrosive, I should say.
No, it is. Like, I always think it's funny when religious people, get offended, because literally the story of Jesus, who kills Jesus? It's literally the religious leaders of the time. Who's he combat with? The dude was here for 33 years. Who does he have an issue with the entire time he's here? It ain't the government. It's not the government. Matter of fact, he gets in front of the government and Buddy's like, I find this man, like, he's good. And the religious leaders are like, no. And he literally he's like, I wash my hand. Like, this is on y'all religious people want to do this? Do your thing.
Yeah, y'all wilding.
Yeah, like I'm not
big wild.
Exactly.
Which is same shit, similar shit happened with Plato or with Socrates. Similar shit happened with Socrates. Similar shit happened with Galileo, and with all, I could go through and line up the whole gambit of different people that were prosecuted and probably killed by their own like group that they were trying to like develop or learn more about or try to expound on, and like that.
Yeah, to me the biggest undertone in the Bible is like, and obviously no one took, like, we haven't as a people taken heed or caution to it, because now there's even more delineations of like even just Christianity and stuff is like, I think Jesus was like the whole time like, and that was his thing, like screw the religious stuff, like the institution, like, and just like believe in like these principles and stuff I'm trying to teach you. And
systems and principles.
Right. Like, believe in me and the principles I'm trying to get you, like, because these systems over here, and then everyone's just like, hunker down, we're going to do some more religious stuff. Like, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. For sure. I wanted to ask you about the 55,000 coaching thing.
Yep.
Tell me more about this.
So I'm doing some mentorship with a coach of mine, and I'm not someone who invests a whole bunch in mentors, but
Kevin O'Leary?
No, it's not Kevin O'Leary. His name's Myron. He's a black guy actually, and he's about to be 60. Really cool dude. One of the reasons I like him so much is not only is he.
Tell me how you heard of him. How do you know about him?
So I've known of Myron for a couple of years because he's kind of in the internet market. Well, the space I operate in, we call it like the internet marketing business consulting space, right?
Okay.
So I've heard of him several times. I've heard a lot of people say he's speaking stuff.
Okay.
And never really thought much of it. Fast forward to on Christmas Day, I started getting on Clubhouse, which is a new social media app. And heard this man actually speak in some rooms. And I'm like, this man is extremely intelligent. And in more, like, I've been around some really intelligent people, way more than him. And I think what really attracts me to him is, one, he's a black dude. He's very wealthy. He's an older dude. But one of the things that makes him so different is he talks a lot about principles, right? Like he always talks about biblical principles.
Your love language.
Right. But he always talks about biblical principles, and from a completely non-religious part, like delineation and things like that, where you would probably really like a lot of his stuff. I'll share like a video and stuff, like just how he breaks things down of like, there's actual principles in this book that when they're applied to life, like they just, like when you pull them out, and the way he teaches is just phenomenal too. So I'll have to pull a couple videos for you, but so extremely intelligent, but his kind of, so I wanted to learn from him just from them, but the reason I ended up paying him money is because his students get awards for having $1 million days. Like one of his students just got a $5 million a day award for selling 5 million in a day. So he's like teaches a lot of his students, like specifically not only biblical principle, and his approach is this, like he's just teaching principles. He has to mention that they're biblical because that's where he found them, right? Like
just give him credit.
Right. So they're principles. And
we've talked about that before. There's a reason why we still have the Bible today. It's not because there was some evil, corrupt government that forced it down everyone's throats. If it wasn't as meaningful as it is and didn't carry the same, the quality principles that it does, nobody would read that shit. I don't care who forced it down nobody's throat. They would just.
And the other thing about it that you're saying that is there's you can see throughout history where, as a matter of fact, you said it wasn't some corrupt government, the opposite, where there was overt efforts to get rid of this thing and not let people, and it's still the number one. So so it's here for a reason. But anyway, so he teaches his principles,
it's not an accident. So yeah.
Right, exactly. He teaches people how to sell from virtual and live stages, and that's usually where they do these big things. And I'm just I'm really good at selling, and I've helped a lot of people. I'm I ain't never had $1 million day. So and
how can you even, do you just it has to be, you get clients that they're paying large sums up front.
So
it can't be you can't talk to 1,000 people in a day.
It's right. No. So usually it's off of events, and I'm just getting in. So we have an event, and I'll start to actually learn a little more of this process and stuff. But so for instance, first of all, one of his principles, and this is amazing, he doesn't believe in selling low ticket things, right? So for instance, his 3 offers are $55,000, $150,000, and $1 million. Those are the only 3 offers he has. And he has people in all those offers, by the way. And let me tell you, there ain't no monthly payment plan. All right. So this is some shit I had to give up.
Jesus
all right.
Christ.
So, but he finds that principle. Oh, it's in King somewhere. where he goes and he's like, believe like in his high ticket, and he's talking about like how people, tell you selling's bad and all this stuff. And I have to find the exact verse, I did write it down. He talks about where it basically says in the Bible, it's like King Solomon's talking about, and says that the individual who keeps the grain or the store, the knowledge, basically, like from the people, they shall like, kill him or whatever. But the man who does, he basically has should selleth it, right? It doesn't say give it, should sell it. And then he always talks about like there's principle where it says like, hey, wherever where your treasure goes, your heart follows, and all these things. So basically all these like really interesting principles that are in the Bible. But so I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, so that's what I'm trying to learn from him, because I'm trying to have $1 million day, right? So that I can pop up. When I have $1 million day, y'all are never going to see me again. I may just work like 5 days out of the year and you're never going to see me. But but like on worst case scenario, like I think, obviously that's those are extraordinary results, and he's had several clients that have done that. But the average student's getting like $100,000 days, like per these events and stuff. So I'm like, that's pretty cool. So I want to learn how to do that, because I don't know how to do that. But more importantly, it's not the money and just that for me. I just want to get up under him because what I've found about smart people is most of the lessons you get from really smart or wealthy people are caught, not taught. So you have to be within, like, you have to be around them. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Thankfully, we have a lot of rich, wealthy, smart people that write books, but even then it's hard to convert. It's much easier to take specific actions and
I have an extra one of his books that I'll give you.
Sweet.
But yeah, like, like I said, yeah, I mean, he's written books too. Like, by the way, guys, I'm not saying that you can't get, like I said, I learn a lot of things from, books and from people from afar, but there's certain individuals where I realize and I say, hey, I want to be in that person so I can catch as much as possible, and so that I can access.
I would say that's better. It's more efficient. It's firsthand. Like you're able to see it more clearly than through book. Like a book is great, but I think that firsthand is better. Tell me, I'm curious, what's the best day you've had in terms of sales?
Gosh.
If you don't mind sharing.
No, not at all. I think probably $20,000. $20,000, I think.
So you could 5x potentially 5x your efforts.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And like that, I mean, I've had, some 15 and 20, but those aren't like, those don't happen like
it's not consistent.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm sure these dudes that are doing $1 million a day, they ain't doing that every day.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, the whole point is, you probably got to go deliver after that. Right. But, and these guys, and I know some of the students, actually, these are not like hidden people. They're other people in my industry, Aline Wallet or Dan Henry and stuff. And they sell other things and like the guy that just did $1 million, he was already making $5 million a year. Like I've seen him come up on the, for a while, like he has other things he sells, but so like I said, really, that's just like a cool thing that I think I want to learn tactically, but what really had me was like, this dude, I want to the biggest thing I think I want from him is I want to understand the way he studies books, and specifically I like, to me, that like I'm always looking like I said, I don't do it much, but I want to there's certain things I feel are invaluable to me. That would be invaluable, like something I can take with me for like I said, having access to him, just like when I have a question and hearing, like I said, I talked about before, here's my take or look at it, but like someone who has a further or, advanced thinking on it, I want to know what they think specifically about this as well, because that challenges and expands my thinking.
Yeah. Iron sharpens iron, baby.
Right, exactly. It's like, if I want, it's like, cool, Elon Musk says a lot of stuff, but I can't ask him specifically what he thinks about my thing. It's like, and get his take on it. And so that's cool. And then also what comes with that, just like we were talking about earlier, when these people know your name, right? a whole new world of networking and stuff opens up to you and stuff like that. You know, when you're around people like that are connected, right? And so I don't have any specific plan or connection that I want from him, but I just know that happens, right, when you're around those people, because when you invest with somebody, right? And by the way, guys, that's a shortcut. You want someone to catch something from someone, you want their attention, you want them to pour into you. Money is a great way to do it, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, and it doesn't have to be that much, right? Like,
yeah.
Oh, and let me buy you dinner, right? That's like the simplest form. Like,
yeah,
I'm buying his attention. And like Owen's probably going to remember anyone that he goes out to dinner with. You should, you know, like,
yeah.
And so that's part of it as well, right? Like
I've done that countless times.
Right, exactly. And so that's like, you know, obviously that's a principle that I would use. And it's like, hey, over here. And like I said, people like that. And this is what I was talking about earlier, guys, when I was talking about challenging. And it's like, and when I say, of course, every wealthy person that I know, I mean, like, and again, I know my last mentor is pretty wealthy too. All made more money. You guys are talking about the billionaire. No wealthy person I know lost money. I didn't lose money. I'm not even that wealthy over, you know, this pandemic and stuff, right? That's what y'all are down there fussing about. And so
that's what rich people can make money in a great market, a bad market, an average market, or whatever market, they make money.
And so what I found is, like we were talking about earlier about the opportunity is, and this is what people think, is that the wealthy for some reason are supposed to just enlighten everybody. First of all, that's been tried from so many amazing people we talked about. People don't listen when it's done that way. But wealthy people, I've come to find, are extremely willing and giving and want to give that knowledge to people who seek it. And they'll go even further intimately with people who they know are going to actually do something well with it. And that's usually when they put together things like an offer that's $55,000. They're like, cool, I invested in you, and they're in turn invested in me, right? It's like it makes them realize how serious you are. And so, like I said, that's what I always find from wealthy people, is that like the knowledge is there and they'll give it too, but you got to go seek it. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do.
Love it. So how is that, like a 1 year thing or?
Yeah. So here's what's funny about it. Because my wife asked me when I did it, I didn't even know what the deliverables were. I thought I was investing in 3 days of this guy's time. Okay. That's what I was assuming I was getting. But yes, I get support for a year, right? And I think that's just important for listeners as well, because again, when you find intelligent
support from him or from his team,
him,
okay,
yeah, him, right, him, and guidance and support from him,
cool.
Is like, there's a lot of people, like I was okay with two, like, again, when you get around people like that, like there, like one or two things that they say would just like literally change the course of your life. And so I'm cool with that, but yeah, I'm gonna get to work. So
ideas are you might not be able to put a price on a brilliant idea.
Well, ideas and insight, that's what I got, is like, for instance, you had a friend who gave you insight into the stock market and then insight into GameStop specifically, and that paid so many dividends for you already in the short time you've been doing it, right? Like insight, like, and the average person doesn't value insight enough. Like, oh, why would I, like, you were going to pay for a couple of days of his time? Yes, because like being clued in, insight into something, like, imagine having the insight on Apple or Facebook or Google, like, you know what I'm saying? Like
before the iPhone.
Right. Yeah. It's huge. So, but yeah, so we're going to have several, I think there's like 3 or 4 in-person events over the year. Office hours with him every other week. I have direct Voxer access to him now if necessary. I do get 1 30-minute one-on-one session with him as well. But yeah, support over the course of the year.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to keep tabs on that and make sure that we'll track and see how it's going.
Oh yeah, You're definitely gonna know because I'm telling you, when I hit, you can be like, you gonna hit me like, hey, it's Saturday.
You're gonna be on here with a brick. Hey, what up?
Like when I make like that, like, you know, $250,000 a day, yeah, I'm gonna show up with there. And then when I hit that $1 million, you can be like, you coming for the podcast, and there's just gonna be no response.
No response.
No, I'm just fucking around.
I'm in Turks and Caicos. Hit me next week.
No, but no, I'm excited for that. And one of the reasons why is because one of the other things I heard him say that I thought was really good was that he said, it wasn't specifically talking to me, but he was talking, he said, you don't have an income problem. Right? Like, and I don't. Like, for me, I make good income. He was like, the speed at which you earn your income is the problem. And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like, okay, $250,000, 300, you know, for like over the course of a year. What if you made that in a day? Right? The speed of which you do it allows you to do so much other things and like perpetuate. And I was like, fuck, that's good. So that's what I'm really looking forward to over the next year, increasing the speed at which I make money, obviously making more, because that's going to allow me to do some of the things I want to do, the things we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
And there's just things I want to partner up and do, right? There's ideas and things that I've even thought about with you that I just don't have the resources and things, you know, like to do. And so that's what I'm super excited about.
Love it. Free up more time.
Yep.
Do more shit.
Absolutely.
All right, bro. I'm good. You good?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good shit today. I'll see you next week.
All righty. Peace, man.